Debut? Well, actually, I did a little music thing yesterday with the Mustache, so it's not the debut of the Mustache, but it's the debut on Talking Dogs with the Mustache. I'm a little, I'm a little nervous about this. I've never done a mustache before. There's been mixed reviews, especially within my household. My daughter likes it, my wife doesn't, or actually, my wife hasn't really given me a firm answer on that, but we're rolling with it tonight, and we're talking Mississippi State sports with a mustache on Talking Dogs tonight. It's been a while. We have not had a Talking Dogs in a few weeks, I don't think. So we're going to kind of discuss where things have transpired as far as fall practices are concerned. Technically, it's fall, but it's doesn't feel like fall. It's like 105 degrees every single day this week, and they're pushing kickoff times back in high school sports. It's just an absolute disaster out there from a weather perspective. It hadn't rained here in like 2 weeks. I'm still trying to water the grass, put some fertilizer down today, and we're continuing to fight the good fight there on that side. So we're not going to talk a lot of side on this show tonight. We're going to talk Mississippi State football. And for the Bulldogs, it is 12 days remaining until kickoff. And that's exciting. We're almost under 10 days till the start of college football season. I cannot wait. September 2nd, Mississippi State and Southeastern Louisiana will be kicking off. And going to be hot, of course. It always is in that first game. But it's going to be football, and that's what we're all excited for. We're ready for Mississippi State to kick this thing off. We're tired of people talking about the season. We're ready to see what happens when they put on the helmets and they put on the pads and they start hitting other people and they start counting the score. So I think that my optimism on Mississippi State has grown in the last few weeks. And I'll tell you why, because I've actually been able to see some of practices first and foremost, but just hearing from players, coaches, the quiet confidence that this group has, and kind of knowing how far the offense has come since the spring, knowing what the defense is going to be, it really has made me not really reevaluate the season, because I thought Mississippi State's a 7 or 8 win team. I still think they're going to be 7 or 8 wins, but I just feel a little bit better about that prediction now that I've seen the team, that I've heard Zach Arnett and company talk. It's a group that I just feel like has a good plan in place. You got so many different guys back too that have been here for 5 or 6 years. It's very difficult to have people that have played that much football and be kind of a disaster of a team. I just don't see it. I feel good about where Mississippi State is right now. I think fall camp has gone really well. The injuries have been minimal from, a serious perspective. I don't think anybody is out for the season, out for several games or anything like that. You have a few guys banged up. Tula Griffin's banged up. I expect that to be kind of a game time decision by the time they get around to the first game. But nothing serious there. The receivers have gotten banged up a little bit, but nobody's out for a while or anything like that. So right now you're in good shape, knock on wood. You want to stay healthy over the next few weeks and go into that first game feeling really good about where you are health-wise. And so I think that's a good thing. I think they're starting to feel really good about where Will Rogers is in this offense. Anytime you bring a guy back that's been here and started for 4 years, that's good. That's a really good thing in the SEC. So I like where Mississippi State is right now. I think that this is going to be a really good season, and I think fans should be excited. You guys should be very excited. I don't think you should even be cautious at this point. Get behind the team. Get excited about this team. I think there's some good things coming. So with that, we'll kind of start things here. We'll start with Stringer Films. I appreciate that, Stringer. How surprised would you be if State won the West? I would be pretty shocked. Not going to lie. They've only won it one time, And the SEC West, to me, is significantly tougher now than it was then. You got Alabama where they are as a program. They were not nearly as dominant in 1998 when Mississippi State won. Neither was LSU. State actually lost to LSU that year, and they weren't a very good program at that point. They were kind of in a lull as a program. They weren't nearly as good as they were now. So you got LSU and Bama now where they are. You didn't have that in 98 when Mississippi State won. I think it's significantly tougher to do that now with a program like Mississippi State that kind of relies on the blue-collar mentality, and they're not going to recruit at the level of those teams. It would be surprising. It really would be. But when you kind of break it down, the two teams that State have to knock off to get to that level are Alabama and LSU, like we mentioned. Both of those games are at home. Now, I'm not going to sit here and predict either one of those. We actually, on the podcast today, broke down Mississippi State's schedule. Brian and I, you can listen to that tomorrow on Thunder and Lightning. We broke down the schedule, talked about where we see Mississippi State ending. We both are on the same page there. But I don't think they're going to win either one of those games. But if they were going to beat those two teams, I feel a lot better about that happening at home than I do on the road. But yeah, those are the teams you're going to have to knock off to get to that stage, and it's going to be tough. But you know, if you are to beat a team like Alabama or LSU, having as veteran a roster as you have for Mississippi State this year, you got to have that. So they at least have that going in their favor, and we'll see what happens from there. Stringer, I don't know who their quarterback is right now. I don't think they've announced a guy. Milroe, I think, is the guy that is kind of the front runner for that. And, you know, we'll see. But they got 3 guys up for that job, and nobody's really separated themselves, at least not, you know, coming from one of the coaches or any kind of statement at this point yet. I mean, we haven't seen a announcement just yet like Illinois made today. Luke Altmaier, Starkville native. Love him, love his family, known them for a long time. Really proud of him. He's going to be the starting quarterback for Illinois. Brett Bielema announced that today, so that's pretty cool. Just some local news there for you guys. Wishing him all the best. I hope he has a great year and does some big things there. Great arm talent. All right, Pirate. Hearing Tulu out 3 weeks. Xavion and Mosley out 2 weeks. J-Rob questionable first game. Yeah, we'll see what happens and all that. All those guys have been banged up a little bit. I don't think anything serious for any of them. But it's one of those deals where if you have any doubt on those guys, you don't play them week 1. Maybe push 1 or 2 of them. You don't really want all of them out. That's kind of danger zone. But, you know, if Tulu's out, you got Cree Whitmore, who's had a great fall. The depth is definitely thinning a little bit here if you have some more injuries. So those guys need to get healthy, and that's why you don't do anything else with them the rest of camp, I don't think. Just let them heal up. All those guys have played a lot of reps and played a lot of games for the most part, so not really any concern if they lose some time. But I don't know. I mean, maybe you're hearing that. Maybe that's right on the money. I don't know. I think Tulu is definitely a guy that's going to be up into game time to see what happens with him, and we'll see on the other guys what happens. But definitely some talent in that room, even if a couple of those guys are out. 44, you could have been in Tombstone with that stash. Great movie. Yeah, Haydad said last night I looked kind of like Sam Elliott. I'll go for that all day. I mean, there's still women to this day that call that man good looking, and he's like, I don't know, like 70. I don't know what his age is, but people still to this day think he's a good looking man. And if you think I could have been in Tombstone, maybe I'm a Sam Elliott lookalike, I'll go with that all day. Stringer, Arnett takes down Bama year 1. Okay, he's calling his shot. Stringer is calling his shot. Mississippi State's taking down Alabama. You're going to be one of the few calling that, but I love the optimism. Put some money down on the game, man. Put your money where your mouth is. Put some money down in the game. See what you can win out of this, and let's see what happens from there. You got to do it. If you're that confident, you got to put your money where your mouth is. Daniel Moore, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good is Nick Barmira? I don't know. I haven't seen a ton of him. I think he's going to be pretty good. But he's been hurt. I don't know what's going on with him health-wise. He hasn't been out there on the field the last couple of weeks. So got to get him healthy, get him on the field, and see what happens from there. But I think he's solid. Just judging on his numbers, I would say a 6, maybe 5 or 6. Judging on his numbers at UCLA, was really solid, got better year by year. You get a veteran guy that's played Power 5 football. My thing is with the kicker, I don't think it really matters as much on other positions. If you can make field goals, you can make field goals, and it might be a little more pressure, things like that. I mean, you have to factor that in, but from a talent standpoint, if you kick a 60-yard field goal in high school, you can kick a 60-yard field goal in college. As long as you're, kicking off the ground. A lot of times it's a lot easier to kick off a tee, but to me, it's a lot easier for players that have shown it somewhere else to come into SEC and do that same thing. But, at the same time, it is a little different pressure. Probably going to be a little more pressure on him, but need to get him out there, get him healthy. But they have some options at kicker that they're excited about. Reggie Williams, what have you seen from the tight ends, Spivey, Goody, and Harmon? Good stuff. I think Spivey would be if I'm, putting money down, going to have to make a bet on who starts game 1 or who leads the team and receiving, things like that. I'd probably go with Spivey. Spivey is a guy that's been around for a long time. He's been in this program. He's been at TCU, played the national championship game. So, he's got the most experience at that position. Goody played behind some great tight ends, doesn't have as much experience. Neither one of those guys have caught a lot of passes in their career, but I would lean on Spivey a little bit. Harmon's probably your best potential as a receiver. Goody may be your best blocker. The best all-around guy, I'm probably going to go with Spivey. But I think all three of them have looked solid. I'm not concerned really at all about the tight end position. I think even if they can't help you a ton in the passing game, which I still think they will, I think it's going to be a good blocking group. I think they're going to be able to block pretty well, especially Goody. He's a guy that I think is going to be probably one of their best blockers. Daniel Moore, is NIL the reason we've lost the in-state D-line recruits to other schools? Possibly. I don't know. I haven't talked to those guys to really know one way or the other. I think it's definitely the reason that Camarion Franklin went to Ole Miss. I don't think Mississippi State was willing to put together quite the package that was being talked about there for him. And the other two guys, Jeffrey Rush and, William Meckles is on there, although I think State was recruiting him as an offensive lineman. But, Cameron Beavers, possibly. I don't think State is spending a ton of money on NIL recruits out of high school. I think they're talking about opportunities that you have when you get here, but I don't think there's a ton of guys that they're, going to write a check for immediately when they get there. And, maybe that approach needs to change. Maybe that's the right approach. I don't know. I mean, this day and age with the transfer portal, what it is, to me, I would spend more money on the transfer portal than with high school recruits because kids get unhappy. Kids at the transfer portal now quicker more than ever, and, you're filling slots all the time with those guys out of the portal. So, I don't necessarily disagree if that's the formula for Mississippi State, if they're wanting to spend more money on retention and out of the transfer portal than they do on high school guys. I don't think that's a terrible strategy as long as you're getting good players on the roster. If at the end of the day you've got good players on your roster and you're competing, that's all that really matters. So, we'll see. It is kind of disappointing. I'm not really blaming coaches for it because at the end of the day, I don't know how hard they could have recruited Camarion Franklin and still gotten him without saying they're going to spend all this money out of the, NIL. But, there's only so much selling you can do for kids now. I mean, you sell kids on the fact that you put guys in the NFL. Mississippi State is making $300 million more dollars, or not Mississippi State, but players are making $300 million more dollars than Ole Miss in the pros or Southern Miss. They're making over $600 million in earnings over time for Mississippi State players that are in the NFL. That's a lot of money, and a lot of those guys are defensive linemen. A lot of those guys are top of the league guys. Chris Jones, Fletcher Cox has been one of the top defensive tackles in the league since he's been there. Jeffrey Simmons, Pernell McPhee was great. He ended up becoming a linebacker, but you get the point there. All these guys were, Danico Autry, all these guys were either recruited or coached by David Turner. He's got the ultimate selling point, and if players don't want to do that, if they're looking for money instead, then that's their prerogative. Mississippi State can only put that stuff in front of people and go from there. And those guys don't want to be here. That's fine. I think Mississippi State's putting together a good defensive line class. I love the guys that they have committed there. Maybe a couple more guys would really make that a great class, but I'm not really concerned about Mississippi State's defensive line group moving forward. I think they're in good shape. The Pirate, don't be surprised if we win the game 49-28 to Southeastern Louisiana. They have an excellent passing offense. That'd be a little scary. Even with a good passing offense, Mississippi State should be able to disrupt things up front, and they should be better in the secondary. You don't want to give up 28 to Southeastern Louisiana. That would not be a good development, in my opinion. Jay in Baltimore, what is Mike Wright's ceiling if Rodgers is sidelined by injury? I don't really know because he's getting better. I think he's really gotten better as far as his passing is concerned, and then just a really dynamic runner. So he adds something to the team that Mississippi State doesn't have and hasn't had since probably Nick Fitzgerald, because that's he's a guy that runs like a deer. When he gets in the open field, it's going to be tough to catch him. But he's going to add that dynamic of being able to pass the ball too. I think he's really grown there as far as a passer. You obviously would like to have Will Rogers stay healthy, but I think you do have a capable backup if something does happen to your quarterback. Dirty 808. We have to beat a good team we're not supposed to beat. It's been too long. LSU or Bama needs to be a win. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to grab a win, at least against LSU. I think that's a much more logical thought than beating Alabama, because State struggled to even score against Alabama over the last few years since Nick Saban's been there. So I don't think that LSU's out of the realm of possibility. I think that's a winnable game. I took LSU in that, but I do think that State could win it. I thought they could have won last year. The final score doesn't indicate it, but State was winning that ball game there late in the third quarter, and then you had the muffed punt. I thought State was relatively in control there until that happened. And so they should have won that ball game, I think, last year. So I'm not counting them out in that game. Stringer, if we would have run on every down against Alabama last year, we might have had a shot. They couldn't stop it. They did run a little bit better, but they would have adjusted to that, I'm sure. Their defense was too talented not to adjust to that. I just think State was kind of catching them off guard there for a little bit. Eventually, they would have stopped it, and I think they did for the most part. Zach Tucker, since it's so early in the season, there might be a chance for a crazy upset week 3. I'm not saying it's a great chance, but it's week 3. Seen weirder things happen. Yep. Again, would be nice. All right. Stringer said he took out a second mortgage to bet the over on State 6.5 wins. I think they're going to hit it. It just seems like they're there every year. That's like their Vegas like over under 6.5, 5.5, 6. There's a lot of people did not have faith in Mississippi State, and they're over that number almost every year. Sven, good to see you, man. You're supposed to be coming up here at some point, aren't you? If you haven't already. State and Coach Arnett put an amazing class together after Coach Leach's passing, but the most impressive point for me was the coaching stuff, Bumpus Turner Schmidt. Yeah, exactly. I think that's another thing that gives me a lot of faith in this team, a lot of faith in Zach Arnett. I like this staff a lot. I think he put together a great staff, a lot of experience, as he's mentioned, over 100 years experience between that group. It's just a good, solid staff with a ton of experience in the SEC or Power 5. I think he did a great job. I was really impressed early on. I got a little concerned with the offensive coordinator, but I thought he did a good job getting Kevin Barbay. I thought that was a good get for Mississippi State. So, yeah, I'm excited about this coaching staff. Sven, great choice. Southern Miss in the Egg Bowl. Should have a good time. I'll give you some food recs when we get closer to time. Steven, my good friend Steven Agustinelli, also known as Six Pack. Who's the one you trust to get us the 3 points? I don't know. If you're gonna have to restart that question, Steven. Let's see what. I guess you mean the kicker. I don't really know yet. We'll see. Cal Ferry is one. If that's what you're talking about, Cal Ferry is one that I think is going to be really good. The walk-on out of Arkansas was great last year in high school. He's been impressing so far in practice, so that's one. And then I think Barmira is going to be good. He needs to be healthy. Stringer, if our D-line's nasty, we'll win 10-plus games. We'll see. Steven, if you were out there, I think I would trust you. I hear the kicking runs in the family. And you had the golden toe, is what I was told. David Bassett, Mike Wright could be huge for us when we start the SEC games. We've put him out there in different ways. Agree. I would love to see that. And now I believe that you can have Mike in there, and it's not a situation where the defense is saying, okay, he's going to run the read option here, which it might still work if that was even the case because he's that talented. But I think that he's capable throwing the football. I don't think when he comes to the ballgame, I don't think defenses are saying he is only going to run here. I think he's capable of dropping back, rolling out, getting you some passes down the field. So that's, I think you have some options there. I've said all along, I just don't think that you can get away with just letting him hold a clipboard on the sidelines. You have a dynamic guy, a guy that, can really do some things that you don't have normally on this roster. Put him out there and let him roll. And I think they'll have some packages for us, but they're just not going to tell us about that. Jay in Baltimore with his always famous baseball questions. And I appreciate that, by the way, Jay. Do you see Jake Mangum getting... sorry, I lost your question. Getting an MLB shot soon? He has been red hot lately. Should, man. It's... What I've always said is... it always depends on what the roster situation is with the team that these players are on. Like Jordan Westberg was tearing it up for a while. We were all wondering what was taking so long for the Orioles. And, their situation in the infield was just absolutely stacked, and it still is. And he finally got called up and he's kind of sticking. For Jake Mangum, I don't know what the Marlins situation is in the outfield to speak on anything there, but from a production standpoint, he's proven basically everything he needs to prove. We know he can do it in the outfield. We know he can hit. He's shown he can hit for power. He can hit, gap to gap. Just a good at bat for you. So they're just waiting on that. I could see a September call up or something. It wouldn't shock me at all, but I think he's close. I would be shocked if he doesn't make it to the MLB. And I've said that since he was in college. I've always had faith that Jake would eventually be on an MLB roster. Some other people have been skeptical because of, maybe he didn't have the power in his bat or whatever, but Jake is a baseball player. Jake is another Dak Prescott style player. When people tell him he's not going to do something, that's going to make him go 10 times harder. And he's proven it now for the last few years in the minor league system. Whatever level he's been on, he's hit, he's defended, he's going 100%. He's a guy that you want in the locker room at the very least, but I want him on the field. And I think he's going to be there pretty soon. Richard Neal, do we know who beside DeCam Richardson is starting at corner and also the safeties? Still wait and see on the corners, but Hunter Washington's starting to lock down that other cornerback position. Another guy we talked about on the podcast today that you can listen to on tomorrow's show. Great show, by the way. If you guys want to check that out tomorrow, we talk about the scrimmage that happened on Saturday, the standouts there, and kind of where things are on position battles, discuss the schedule, all that stuff. So you can check that out. But Hunter Washington moved over from safety to cornerback, and over the last week and a half or 2 weeks, he's kind of taken over that other spot alongside DeCamerion Richardson. Former four-star player, was at Florida State, and really good athlete. To go from safety to cornerback, I think you have to be a good athlete to play both positions. Marcus Banks is doing it too. And we're seeing that a lot from Mississippi State's defensive backs, that versatility. I dig into that a little bit on the show, but it looks like he's kind of becoming the guy there. At least for right now, it seems like he's taken over that other spot. But you got other guys, Asias First, DeCarlos Nicholson. All three of those guys have been number one there alongside DeCam Richardson. So I think, for one, you can look at it two ways. You can say that, well, nobody's locking down that spot, but you can also say there's a lot of competition there. I think the fact that we're talking about 3-4 guys at cornerback is a good thing. I want options there. If one guy's not getting it done, I want another guy to be able to do it. If one guy is getting it done, I would like for somebody that's just as good can come in behind him if he gets hurt or needs a breather. The guy can come in, you don't lose a beat. So Hunter Washington is the guy that I would say right now is kind of emerged as that number 2 guy, and we'll see where it goes from there. Rodney Rhodes, who will be the number 2 back? I think it's going to be Kevon Lee. Jeffrey Pittman has kind of slid back a little bit since Simeon Price has come back. After the spring, he was hurt. I would put my money on Kevon Lee or Simeon Price, but don't count out Seth Davis in that room either. He has made a lot of noise the last few weeks. Just a guy that's a different kind of runner for Mississippi State. It wouldn't shock me to see him getting a lot of playing time this year. Neil, what do you hear about fall baseball? Nothing so far. Everything's been just in the preliminary stages. I really want to get over there to some scrimmages and stuff to kind of see how the progress is. I want to see in the fall guys throwing strikes because that's been an issue in the fall for the last 3 years, maybe two and a half years. State's struggling to throw strikes. And they've got to do that in the fall because that's been a precursor. We've seen Mississippi State struggle with those strikes in the fall, and I've even been a person that's been like, well, it's just fall baseball. They're doing tighter zones. No, it's been an issue. So if they're throwing strikes in the fall, I'm going to feel a lot better about the pitching staff. Travis McCain, what grade would you give Zach Selman in his first year as AD? I don't really know yet because there's not a whole lot to judge him on. Hasn't been any hirings really to this point. The budget seems good. They're raising money for NIL, and I think he's been a part of that in some regard as much as he can be. Relationships, hearing the fans out. I think he's an A plus. He's great at that. The rest of the stuff, I'll grade him when it happens. But so far, we don't really have a whole lot to grade him on. But as far as being a awesome dude to be around, listening to fans, building relationships, as high as grade as you can get, A plus. Oh, I just missed it. Zach, up to this point, how do you feel about our new young guys in the secondary? I think a bright future for those guys. Bryce Pollock's been turning heads so far. Will James in the secondary. Who else? I think Kelly Jones will probably need a red shirt, but I like his future. Isaac Smith, obviously. How could I not mention him first? I think he's going to play a lot this year, special teams and safety. He's battling it out with a 6-year senior at safety at the Bulldog position. So the future is very bright for those freshmen. I think you can be excited about them. A couple of them probably need a little bit of time to develop. It'd be nice to get a couple of guys some playing time this year because you're going to lose a guy or two in the secondary again this year, but a lot to be excited about that group. Craig Manning, what coaching duo could beat Arnett and Brock in a tag team match? I don't know if anybody could. Both those guys are gruff football guys, former players. I would take them against just about anybody right now. Dirty. We might not beat Bama, but I think Coach Arnett and his coaching staff is the one who will get us over the name on the jersey complex. I hope so. It'd be nice to kind of see that come to an end. And State's proven they can beat LSU, but it's been a few years. John K., I get tired of Texas A&M being ranked, although it is towards the end of the rankings. Ole Miss, I don't care about their ranking as much. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. I talked about this today. I've not bought A&M since they've been in this league outside of the 2012 year. I thought they were going to be really good beyond that. But after 13, 14, they were just kind of just okay every year. I stopped buying them every single preseason. I thought they were frauds. This year, for whatever reason, I feel like they're going to be really good. I don't know if it's the Bobby Petrino thing and Jimbo Fisher just decided he's going to step back a little bit. And we'll see if that happens, by the way. I'm still skeptical. But if that's the case, if he does step back, he lets Bobby Petrino run that offense, and their offense has moved them to the 22nd century or whatever we're at now. I don't even remember what century we're in. If that happens, then I think that this is a team that's going to be very difficult to defend. And defense, they're going to have dudes as well. There's just so many good players on that team. It's hard to believe at some point it doesn't click. This is my last time. This is the last time that they should be taken serious, by the way. If they don't get it done this year, they should never be inside the top 25 in the preseason again until they prove it. That's just my stance. Sven, I don't even know if that's the right way to pronounce it, but I'm just going to do it that way. State gave you tickets for those games because you have to fly 4,500 miles one way. Yikes. 14 hours. First choice is Bulldog Burger. That's a good spot. I encourage you to go down the street to Two Brothers. I encourage you to go to Restaurant Tyler. I encourage you to not go to a Mexican restaurant, if at all possible. I also encourage you to go to The Joint. That place is outstanding. Great brisket, some of the best barbecue around, in my opinion. Just from the one time I've been there, it was excellent. Probably the best barbecue sandwich I've ever had, the chopped brisket sandwich. Go check it out. Sam Hunt, how big of a jump will Xavier make this year? I think a huge jump. He only had 2 catches, I think, last year. Was great in the return game, but didn't get a whole lot of opportunities at wide receiver. I think he's going to be one of your top receivers this year. He can get the ball in his hands. He can stretch the field, too, because he's got some speed. You can put him in the slot, and he can, be pretty elusive there on the short yardage catches. I think it's going to be a big year for him. John K. Oh, and Steelers hot take. I think they're going to be division champs this year. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but they've been fighting uphill the last couple of years. I think this is going to be a really big year for them. Tons of young talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I'm really excited. John K., I'm definitely looking forward to football and basketball this athletic season. Baseball has just been all around disappointing. I don't blame you. I'm kind of dreading the season right now. Hopefully that changes. It's kind of sad, but we'll see how it goes. Anil, what does pitching look like in fall ball with a new pitching coach? Hopefully a lot better. That's what you hired Justin Parker for. Justin Tidwell, as Percy Lewis dropped some weight as he locked down the starting spot. He has dropped some weight, and he's really trimmed up. He told us the other day, I forget exactly how much, maybe like 60 pounds over the last couple of years. I mean, it's been pretty wild how much he's lost, but it's a really good thing for him and for Mississippi State. He looks like a bona fide left tackle. He was just a big old boy blocking back in the day. And by back in the day, I mean like last year. And he's starting to kind of learn the position and all that stuff now. I think that this is it was a good year for him last year. I think this has been a really good fall camp for him. And I believe he's starting to lock down that spot. Battling it out with Dollar Bill, it looks like he has started to take hold of that starting left tackle position, and that's really good news for Mississippi State. Dude was #1 tackle in JUCO, so this is what you brought him in for, to be your left tackle, to be an NFL guy, and this is his opportunity. So it looks like he's seizing it for right now. Rodney, favorite Shane and Shane song? That's a good one. There's some really good ones out there. The Psalm that's, I forget, I think it might be Psalm 90, maybe, Surely Goodness and Mercy. That's a really good song. That was a song I played in church a few weeks ago, or actually a few months ago. Probably one of my favorites by them. Shane and Shane's great. They've been to First Baptist Starkville twice. Come each of the last 2 years, they've been outstanding. I actually got to, when I was in college at Mississippi State, I had a friend, Drew Harrison. He and I did a lot of music together on YouTube. We posted a lot of videos and stuff like that. And somebody reached out to us. We opened for Shane and Shane at a concert in Meridian. He and I got to open for them. That was really cool. One of the coolest things I've ever done. And we got a chance to meet them. They were super nice. Couldn't have been nicer guys. That was a really awesome night there in Meridian. Sven added 2 weekend starters. Yeah, the problem is for baseball, you didn't get a Friday night guy. Hopefully somebody that's already here emerges. But I think both those guys are going to be solid, but you need a Friday night guy. And State's got to have somebody that kind of steps up to the plate there, so to speak. 44, where do you think State ranks in rushing in the conference? I would say probably top 5, I think. I mean, you got Arkansas is going to be really good. Ole Miss is going to be really good running the football. Who else is probably going to be run heavy? Probably Alabama will probably be up there. Yeah, I think State's capable of doing that. I think I could definitely see them flipping on the stats a little bit and going from, one of the leaders in passing to one of the leaders in rushing this year. Zach, Jimbo reminds me of an annoying used car salesman that probably overwhelmingly smells of bad aftershave. I can definitely see that. I can smell the aftershave too. Big divorced dad energy from Jimbo Fisher. Probably wears a gold chain. Cowboy boots with, no, maybe not cowboy boots. He's a loafers and jeans guy, I think. Yeah, for sure. Rodney, been meaning to ask you and Brian this for a while. I have no Twitter, so I cannot ask questions. Would you be willing to find a way for non-Twitter users to ask questions? Maybe an email. I'll talk to Brian about that. We'll see if we can maybe get some submissions in the email. He likes to have them right there. Brian, as you know, Brian is a very picky man when it comes to a lot of things. Food, pop culture, his Twitter. Very picky guy. So he likes to have all of his stuff right there. He doesn't like to get in the weeds with the mentions and stuff like that. But I will discuss it with him and see what he says. I have a feeling he's going to say, no, you should just get a Twitter. But just know, that's not me saying that. That's Brian. I'm your friend. Brian is not. He's very mean. 44, I wonder what kind of production we get out of Creed as a freshman. I think he's going to have a great year. We'll see how big of an impact, but everything that we've seen from him in practice, everything that we've heard from coaches, from his teammates, this is the typical, early buzz that you get from a guy that has a great freshman season. We've seen it before. Mississippi State's had players like that. They've really blown up camp and had good freshman seasons. I think that's going to be the case here with him as well. So I'm expecting big things from Creed. Golf official, what kind of steak would you recommend at Clarkson? I don't know if they do a ton of different ones. I think they just do ribeye. I could be wrong on that. I know they have a tomahawk ribeye, which is like $80, but the thing's like 40-something ounces or something. It's crazy. So you could feed your entire family off of that steak. I had the small steak, which was 12 to 14 ounces, and it was delicious. It really was. It was outstanding. But they also have a large steak, which I think is like 20-something ounces, and then I'm pretty positive they have that tomahawk ribeye. If you haven't been to Clarkson General Store, I implore you to go check it out. The prices on some stuff are high, but you pay for the quality food you're getting. They have the Braveheart beef, country poison sausage, superior catfish. It's all just the best of the best from quality. So you got to go check it out. Get the barbecue okra for an appetizer. That's delicious. It's really a great place. I'm going to go back as soon as I possibly can. I was there on Saturday, and it was outstanding. Justin Tidwell, if Percy locks down the spot at left tackle, where does Dollar Bill move? I think he's too talented to ride the pine. It's going to be tough. I think he could play guard. He can be kind of a swing guy at tackle. If somebody gets hurt or whatever, he could be the next guy off the bench at any position outside of center. I think he can play just about anything. So you kind of keep him on standby. They're in good shape. Nick Jones has been playing left guard pretty much the entire spring. I think he played some left tackle in the spring, but for the most part, spring and fall camp, You've seen Nick Jones at left guard. You've seen Cole Smith at center, and you've seen Stephen Lasoya at right guard. And then since the fall, Cam Jones has had right tackle basically locked down. So those 4 positions, I don't think anybody's going anywhere. It'd kind of be one of those deals where I think he would probably be the swing guy, a guy that's the next off the bench if something ever happens. Sven, who will have a better season, Buki Watson and Jet Johnson, or Perkins and his CO at LSU? Jet and Buki had both 100 tackles. I think that the LSU guys are probably more dynamic, but from a stats perspective, a tackles perspective, it's probably going to be Buki and Jet. So it just depends on what you consider better season. If you're talking about tackles, I would go with Buki and Jet. But, NFL prospects, I'm probably going to go with Harold Perkins. And probably going to be more dynamic, too, getting in the backfield, making plays, things like that. Dirty, does Will silence all the doubters after this season? I think so. I think he's going to have a good year. He's obviously he has some limited things in his game from a running standpoint and all that. I mean, he can't tuck it up and outrun everybody, and he's not going to be running the read option. But if he can come out and show that he can run this offense successfully, have a good year, be, around the top of the league in passing and, break the SEC records, things like that, then I think that people can, in the NFL can say, we have a good quarterback here. He's not an air raid guy. He can run a lot of different things, and I think he ends up on a roster. Sven says that Will's going to be a bona fide first rounder. Okay. Well, we have some major hot takes in this chat tonight. We have State beating Bama, and Will Rogers is a first-round pick. I'm holding both of you to that. 44, is Jaden Daniels' passing improved? Yeah, I think it has a little bit. He got better last year as the season went on, too. I thought he was a better quarterback as the year went on. I thought he was very one-dimensional early on in the season. State kind of neutralized him for like the first 2.5 quarters of that game, and then he started getting out and scrambling a little bit. But he became a better quarterback as the year went on. I think he's going to be better this year. Should be top 5 in the league, I think. Yeah. But still, that's a game that I think State can win. I'm picking LSU. I don't think that's an impossible task for Mississippi State. All right, any more before we get out of here? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. Well, good deal, guys. Great to be back with you. Thank you for checking in for nearly 50 minutes on this chat. It's been fun. We will have another one next week. We're back in the swing. I'm determined to make this a thing every week now with football season starting. We'll go all the way through baseball and beyond from there. So we're trying to make this a thing once again, and get back on in the routine, hopefully on Monday nights. So I'll obviously notify you guys if that's not the case. This has been kind of a thing that's been very loose on the time that I do it and when I do it, but I'm going to try to make it a little more uniformed as we go along. But I appreciate you guys for checking in. If you missed any of this, it's about to be uploaded or whatever into the system, and you can go back and watch it. We're at about 50 minutes, so it's a fairly lengthy live chat, but you guys can sit around and listen to it tomorrow. Don't forget to check in on the Thunder and Lightning podcast tomorrow. We got a good one. We missed the show on Monday. Brian got busy. He was grilling on all day Sunday and just was too tired to record, and that's fine. We had a good one today. So check that out tomorrow. check out 247 Sports. Got some great stuff going on over there. Pick you up a Starkville Daily News if you're in town, and I definitely appreciate all that. So, all right, guys, have a great rest of the week. Catch you down.